What if the people who love you the most are also the ones who take you for granted the most, without even realizing it? Read that again, because it sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? How can someone love you and still forget to see you? But stay with me, because this story is going to answer that question in a way that might make your chest feel tight, your eyes sting a little, and maybe, just maybe, make you think about your own life differently by the end of it. This is the story of a woman named Renata. Renata lived in a small house at the end of a quiet street, the kind of street where you could hear dogs barking 2 blocks away and smell someone's dinner cooking through an open window. She was 41 years old, a mother of 2, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a coworker, a friend. She was, in other words, everything to everyone, and that was exactly the problem. Picture her morning. The alarm buzzes at 5:40 a.m., a small, angry sound in the dark. Before her feet even touch the cold floor, her mind is already running, lunches to pack, a work deadline waiting like a shadow, her son's soccer uniform that needs washing, her mother's doctor appointment she has to remember to call about. She moves through the kitchen quietly, the smell of coffee filling the air, the sound of the toaster clicking, while everyone else in the house is still asleep, wrapped in warm blankets, untouched by the day that has already started for her. By the time her husband, Tomas, wakes up, breakfast is already made. By the time her kids stumble downstairs, their bags are packed, their shoes are by the door, their lunches are sitting neatly on the counter. Nobody asks how she slept. Nobody asks if she's okay. It's not because they don't love her. It's because over the years she had become like the electricity in the walls, always there, always working, never noticed until it's gone. Do you know that feeling? The feeling of being essential but invisible at the same time. For years, Renata told herself this was simply what love looked like. Love was a sacrifice. Love was waking up first and going to sleep last. Love was saying I'm fine even when her body ached and her mind felt like a phone battery stuck at 2%. She believed deep down that if she just gave a little more, tried a little harder, stayed a little more patient, eventually someone would notice. Eventually someone would say, "Renata, thank you. I see everything you do." But that day never came. And slowly, something inside her began to change, quietly, like a crack forming in a glass that nobody can see from the outside. Let me take you to the night everything shifted. It was a Sunday evening in October, the kind of evening where the sky turns a soft orange and the air smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet. Renata had spent the entire weekend cooking, cleaning, driving her son to a birthday party, helping her daughter with a school project until midnight the night before, and calling her mother twice to check on her blood pressure medicine. Her lower back throbbed. Her eyes felt heavy, like they were filled with sand. That evening, she finally sat down at the dinner table, exhausted, hoping, just hoping that someone would ask her about her day. Instead, Tomas looked up from his phone and said, almost without thinking, "Hey, did you wash my blue shirt? I need it for tomorrow." No hello, no how are you feeling, just a request. One more task added to an invisible, never-ending list. And at that moment, something inside Renata didn't explode. It didn't scream or cry or slam a door. It simply stopped, like a machine quietly powering down after running too long without rest. She looked at her husband, at her children eating quietly beside him, at the dishes piled in the sink, and she said something she had never said before in 18 years of marriage. "No, I didn't wash it, and I'm not going to tonight." Silence fell over the table like a heavy blanket. Her daughter's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Tomas blinked, confused, as if Renata had spoken in a language he didn't recognize. "What do you mean you're not going to?" he asked, half laughing, still not understanding. Renata's voice stayed calm, but there was something new in it, something steady, something that had never been there before. "I mean exactly what I said. I'm tired, Tomas. I've been tired for a very long time. Tonight I'm going to take a bath and then I'm going to bed. The shirt will still be there tomorrow." She stood up from the table, and for the first time in years, She walked away from a request instead of rushing to fulfill it. That night, sitting in the warm bathwater, steam curling around her like a soft fog, Renata cried. Not loud sobs, just quiet tears sliding down her face and dropping into the water. She wasn't crying because she felt guilty. She was crying because, for the first time in longer than she could remember, she had chosen herself. And it felt both terrifying and strangely, deeply peaceful, like putting down a heavy bag she didn't even realize she'd been carrying. Here is the part of the story that might shock you, the part that changes everything you think you know about being taken for granted. The next morning, something was different in the house, small but different. Tomás got up early without being asked and made his own coffee. He looked at Renata a little longer than usual, like he was seeing her, really seeing her for the first time in a long while. Her daughter, without a word, cleared her own plate from the table. Her son asked quietly, almost shyly, "Mom, are you okay? You seem tired lately." Nobody had said anything dramatic. Nobody had a big conversation about feelings. But one small no, spoken calmly at a dinner table, had cracked open a door that years of silent sacrifice never could. Let's slow down here, because this is the educational part, the part I want you to really understand in the simplest way possible. When you give endlessly, without ever pausing, without ever asking for anything back, people around you don't necessarily become grateful. Often, without meaning to, they become comfortable. Comfort is dangerous because comfort doesn't require attention. Think about it like this. If a lamp in your house is always on, always glowing, you eventually stop noticing the light. You only notice it the moment it flickers or turns off. Human attention works painfully similar to that. People often don't appreciate steady light. They notice change. This does not mean love isn't real. Tomás loved Renata. Her children loved her deeply. But love and attention are two different things, and for years, Renata had trained everyone around her, without meaning to, that her needs were optional, that her tiredness was invisible, that she would always show up, no matter what. So they stopped checking. Not from cruelty, from habit. And here is the shocking truth. The people who take you for granted are often not villains. They are simply people who have never been shown the cost of your love because you never let them see it. Renata's no at that dinner table did something powerful. It didn't just protect her energy for one night. It gently, quietly showed her family the truth. That her time, her comfort, her rest, all had a real cost. That she was not an endless machine of care, but a human being with limits, with feelings, with a body that gets tired and a heart that needs to be filled too, not just constantly emptied. Now I want to add something important here, something human, something real, because this story is not about becoming cold or distant. Renata did not stop loving her family that night. She did not become selfish. She still made breakfast most mornings. She still helped with homework. She still hugged her children tightly before bed. But there was a difference now, a quiet shift underneath it all. She was giving from a place of choice, not exhaustion. From love, not fear of being seen as not enough. That difference between giving because you want to and giving because you're terrified of what happens if you stop changes everything. It changes the way your voice sounds. It changes the way your shoulders sit when you speak. It changes the energy you carry into a room, even if you don't say a single word. Let's go even deeper into why this happens, because I promise to explain this like I'm talking to a 9-year-old, and I meant it. Imagine you have a best friend and every single day, without asking, you give them your favorite snack. Every day for months without fail. At first they say thank you, but slowly as days pass the thank you fades. They just expect the snack now. It becomes normal, invisible, like breathing. Then one day you don't bring the snack. Suddenly they notice. They ask, "Hey, where's my snack?" And in that moment, for the first time in months, they actually think about what you've been giving them all along. That is exactly what happened at Renata's dinner table. The missing yes made the years of invisible yesies suddenly visible. This is not about punishing people you love. It's about reminding them, gently but firmly, that you exist as a full person, not just a role you play for everyone else's comfort. Let's return to Renata's story because it continues, and it gets even more beautiful. Weeks passed. Slowly, small changes kept happening in that house. Tamaz started asking, "What do you want to do this weekend?" Instead of just assuming Renata would organize everything. Her daughter began leaving small notes on the fridge that said things like, "Thanks for everything, Mom." Her son started making his own lunch some mornings, proud, standing a little taller as he did it. None of this happened because Renata gave a speech about her feelings. It happened because she stopped absorbing every single task silently, and instead, she let a few things be uncomfortable. She let a shirt stay unwashed for one night. She let a request sit unanswered for a few hours instead of dropping everything immediately. She let people feel, just a little, what life looked like without her constant, invisible effort. And here is something beautifully human about this story. Renata still struggled. Saying no still made her hands shake sometimes. She still felt a flicker of guilt every time she chose rest over another task. Old habits do not disappear overnight, and healing is never a straight line. Some nights, she slipped back into old patterns, staying up late finishing something nobody asked her to finish, just because it felt familiar. But each time she caught herself, she got a little faster at choosing differently. That is what real change looks like, not perfect, but persistent. Now, let's talk directly to you, because I have a feeling parts of this story feel familiar in your own life too. Maybe you're the one who remembers everyone's birthday, but nobody remembers yours the same way. Maybe you're the friend who always listens but rarely gets asked, "How are you doing?" Maybe you're the parent, the older sibling, the reliable coworker, the one everyone leans on, while you quietly wonder who you're allowed to lean on. If that's you, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not asking for too much by wanting to be noticed. You are not being dramatic by feeling exhausted. Being taken for granted is not a sign that you are unlovable. It is often a sign that you have taught people, without meaning to, that your needs come last. And the powerful, hopeful truth is this: you can teach a new lesson starting today. Here is the real advice, simple enough to use this week, not just something nice to hear and forget by tomorrow. Start noticing the moments when you give automatically without even thinking. That's usually where the pattern lives. Before you say yes, pause for 3 seconds. Just 3. In that small pause, ask yourself honestly, am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm scared of what happens if I don't? Let something stay undone sometimes. This one is hard, especially if you're used to being the person who holds everything together. But an unwashed shirt, an unanswered message for a few hours, an undone chore, these small gaps are often exactly what open people's eyes. Say what you feel, plainly and calmly, the way Renata did. You don't need a dramatic speech. Sometimes the most powerful words are the simplest ones. "I'm tired. I need help. Not tonight." These small sentences carry enormous weight when they come from someone who rarely says them. And finally, remember that people who truly love you will not disappear because you finally ask to be seen. If anything, like Tamaz, like Renata's children, they will lean in closer. Because deep down, most people want to know the real you, tired moments and all, not just the endlessly giving version of you they've grown used to. Here is the deeper truth hiding underneath Renata's story, the one I really want you to carry with you after this video ends. Being taken for granted rarely happens because people stop caring. It happens because we, ourselves, stop asking to be cared for. We disappear a little bit every day, one small sacrifice at a time, until one day we wonder why nobody notices us anymore, forgetting that we are the ones who taught them not to look. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to ask for help without feeling guilty. You are allowed to let something stay unfinished so that you can finally rest. Love that is real does not require you to disappear in order to keep it. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for the people around you is to show them, honestly and simply, what it costs you to love them so quietly, every single day. So tonight or tomorrow, think of one small thing you always do automatically, without ever being asked. without ever being thanked, and just for once let it wait. Watch what happens. You might be surprised by how much people notice the silence where your effort used to be. And if this story reminded you of your own life, if you saw a piece of yourself in Renata's tired eyes and quiet strength, do one small thing for yourself right now. Follow this channel. Every week we share real, honest stories like this one about the quiet battles people fight at home, at work, in their own hearts. Stories meant to help you feel understood and to help you grow, one small truth at a time. Hit follow so you don't miss the next story. Because somewhere out there, the next story we tell might feel exactly like yours.